Their innocence and their compulsion to live a good life on the bus today. And I have to wonder, what future do they have? How many of those kids are Troy Davises? How many of those kids are going to Iraq to kill other little Iraqi Troy Davises? So that's the situation that we're in now, and there's very little room for bullshit. There's very little room for reformism. There's very little room for sectarianism. What we need now is a movement.
If you have heard about what the NAACP did for Troy Davis yesterday, not too many. Okay, then I can tell you something wonderful. They delivered 660,000 signatures on petitions to the Georgia Board of Pardons. So I think what this does is it validates what the sister from Amnesty International said at the beginning of this rally about being scared. Because I think 660,000 people are very scared about the possibility of Georgia executing an innocent man. And we all should be. Because if an innocent person can be executed despite all these so-called eyewitnesses recanting their testimony, despite forced testimony from police, which is a regular feature of life in the black community especially. If despite that, an innocent man could be killed by the state, then none of us are safe. None of us are safe. And that's why it's powerful to say and wear a t-shirt and say, I am Troy Davis, because indeed we are. Because if he is executed, all of us are in much greater danger from police brutality, from police framing up as they did with him, as they did with Mumia Abu-Jamal, Kevin Cooper, and a list way too long to name. That is a factor of life in this country, and we have to fight it every step of the way. So I think we have to be very inspired by what the NAACP and Amnesty International did in collecting hundreds of thousands of signatures, and we're not finished. We need to go out from here for the next 5 days. 5 days left, and try to build up even more support for Troy Davis. He must not be executed.
One thing about this case and Mumia Abu-Jamal's case is the victim family members, the true victim family members, do not know who really did the crime. And they should at least know that, because we know these people are innocent. So I'm glad to be here with like-minded people, and I truly hope for the best for Mr. Davis. But as we found out in the Shepard case, when he goes to the parole board, it's philosophically impossible to prove a negative. They're asking him to prove that he didn't do it, unfortunately. Let's hope for the best.
Here to protest the scheduled execution of Troy Davis. I think they know he's innocent. There's enough, 7 out of 9 witnesses recanted, and one of the witnesses indicated that the two who didn't recant, one of them is the actual murderer. And so there's plenty of circumstantial evidence that Troy Davis did not commit this murder. There is evidence, witness testimony that he didn't commit the murder. And of course, we all believe in his innocence because of the kind of human being he is. He's been on death row for how many years now? It's been 2 decades now, and I believe it's 19 years, and it's just outrageous that they are going to kill this man despite his innocence. So we have to understand that fascism is here. It's not coming, it's here. And we have to rally and come together get over our prejudices and our racism and our classism and our sexism and come together as one nation and demand real change and abolish the death penalty, abolition of the death penalty, number one. And we need to phase out this rotten prison system. We need to give the power back to the people, and we need to reclaim our humanity, our collective humanity, because these atrocities are being committed in our collective name. And so to get our humanity back, we all have to become active. All power to the people. Thank you.
Are you surprised at the silence from President Obama about this potential murder of an innocent man?
Not at all. I think Obama is a straight-up fascist. He's a Wall Street flunky. He's doing the bidding of Wall Street. These people are not interested in anything but the bottom line, and that's money and power, corrupt power. They want to be elected. They cater to the corporations who finance their campaigns. And since Troy Davis's campaign is not going to finance his re-election, he doesn't give a damn.
It's unfortunate that we have to be out here today, but this is the only way that the powers that be understand that people in this country are outraged that the government of the United States, with a black man as president and a black attorney general, would even consider executing an innocent black man on death row in Georgia. The ILWU, the Longshore Union, at our convention in 2009, heard a very moving speech from Troy's sister, Martina Correa. And Martina Correa laid out in detail how her brother was framed. And she got a standing ovation, and our union went on record demanding that they stop the execution, and Troy Davis, the San Francisco 8, Leonard Peltier, and Mumia Abu-Jamal be freed. That's right. So ILW stands proudly on the grounds that this is an innocent man. We want the other unions to be involved. I want to read very briefly what we just got from the South Carolina AFL-CIO. This is a resolution supporting clemency for Troy Davis, passed by the Executive Board of the South Carolina AFL-CIO. It goes on in the resolve to say that the South Carolina AFL-CIO stands firmly against the execution of Troy Anthony Davis. I'm from the Labor Action Committee as well as being from the Longshore Union. I just retired at the beginning of this year. But one of the positions that we stand firmly on in the Labor Action Committee is that there is no justice in this racist capitalist system. Right. Workers are being thrown out of their houses in foreclosures. That's an injustice, while banks are given billions of dollars in bailout. I just came back from Longview, Washington, where the Longshore Union is faced with an attack from an international corporation. The U.S. federal judge issued an injunction against the union for picketing to defend its jobs, for blocking the trains. That is the kind of racist injustice that prevails in this country. And we say that the way workers are going to get justice is by defying the laws in this country, which are made for capital. They're not made for workers. That's the way Troy Davis will be free. That's the way Mumia Abu-Jamal will be free. And that's the way the working class is going to win its victory.
I'm Jim McWilliams, and I have been on many rallies of this type to try and save mostly poor, working class, and black people from being executed. All the way back, my folks were upset over the Scottsboro boys. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, so I didn't have to read about it. I lived it.
So you're not surprised about the frame-up of young men like Troy Davis and what's happening to them today?
No, I am not, but I was for once surprised to hear in Texas that they are about to put execute Mr. Buck on the basis of a testimony of a psychiatrist claiming that because he's black, he's more likely to commit more crimes. That's pretty far out even from Birmingham. Well, let's stand tall and put the pressure on them to try and get them out, because once they make a mistake, they never want to admit it. Have to put the spotlight on them somehow, embarrass them, and try and get justice. When I entered the courthouse in Birmingham and saw...
What year was that?
In the I'm from the 30s and the 40s. When I was in there in the 40s, a very well-dressed white man on the wall from the base of the courthouse to the top with black coal miners in the back, looking across the way at a white dressed up lady with black women picking cotton. I knew we were not going to get any justice in there. So that's my history. Life in this country, right? But we have to fight back, because you don't stand a chance if the police get after someone when they think he's the one who's killed a policeman. They throw out all rules then.
Do you think consciousness has changed in this country since you were growing up in the 30s and 40s?
Yes. More people from outside of the immediate area now know what's happening, and they are willing to speak up. I have to believe that there are people out there who believe in fairness and equality for everybody, and that's our only hope, that we keep the pressure on those who don't believe in those values. In Scottsboro, these were young blacks who, during Depression-like times, trying to get out, and they got on a freight car, and a white woman accused them of having raped her, and they put these young men on death row, even though there was no evidence. One boy was so sick he couldn't possibly have had any sex with her, but still they made it a big cause celeb that we have to teach these black folks a lesson. And fortunately, some of the people from the North, including the Communist Party, came down to try and help them and get them out of there, and we had some success.
So there was a national movement to support them.
Right. The whole country realized that this was a setup. The boys were like between 12 and 16, and this just didn't, it wasn't believable.
My name is Carol Seligman. I'm here to try to help save the life of Troy Davis, an innocent man, clearly convinced of that, on death row. He has his fourth date for an execution on Wednesday, September 21st, and there's a big international campaign to try to save his life, get the Georgia Board of Pardons to give him clemency and stop this execution.
What is the situation for labor and working class people like Troy Davis in the prisons?
I don't think you'll find anyone but working class and poor people in prison in this country, and I think it's one of the major ways that the ruling class tamps down the class struggle in this country. So many working class intellectuals, so many working class people who are fighters for social justice are in prison, and millions are in prison in this country. And you won't find ruling class people in prison, and you won't find, so-called white-collar criminals in regular prisons. These are poor people.
And what should the labor movement do about this?
The labor movement should end the prison system. And the only way I think that really could be done is by ending the capitalist system. I think it's really clear that the capitalist system absolutely relies on this state repression, prisons, executions, solitary confinement, which is torture, and all the other repressive means for keeping working people down. So we got to change the system. That's what working people have to do.
Well, what do you mean end capitalism? What does that mean?
We have to go for socialism. We have to get rid of private profit as the be-all and end-all of public life. You know, people have a right to food, clothing, housing, all the good things that this world could provide if we organized it rationally. That's not happening when profit is the sole criterion for everything. And that's how it is. Profit is number one. It's the be-all and end-all. We have to stop that.
But it seems like the politicians, the Democrats and Republicans, are going for more prisons, for more jails, for more military spending.
The Democrats and Republicans are the two parties of the capitalist system. They work for the profiteers. Many of them are profiteers themselves, or work directly for them. They leave their positions in government and go become lobbyists for the major companies. So there's no hope in reforming parties that are totally beholden to the corporations, to the capitalists. Working people have to have their own party. That's essential. That's a first step to addressing this issue.
Why is it the unions in the United States, most unions, teachers unions and others, continue to support the capitalist system and the capitalist parties?
Boy, that's a good question. It seems amazing that people in my union, the teachers union, support something that's totally against the interests of us as teachers and totally against the interest of students. It's irrational, and the only thing I can think of is that the reason for it is propaganda, mental slavery that we are in this country, that we have to free ourselves from. We have to free our minds from capitalist ideology, and we have to fight back and fight in the interests of people.
Well, you worked as a teacher for many years, and are people changing and waking up?
You know, I hope they are, and I haven't seen it yet except in small instances. But hopefully they will. They have to, because what's the alternative? Things are just getting worse for public education. You can't just say it's for teachers. It's for children. For the whole idea that public education is a right in this country and everywhere in the world, you know.
There seems to be more money for prisons and education? More money for prisons and education?
That's how it is. That's how it is in California. More prison building than school building. It's the opposite. It's on its head of the way it should be and needs to be. If you had good schools, you wouldn't have people locked up.